Welcome to Careers in Discovery, where you'll meet scientists who've forged outstanding careers in biotech and hear about what they've learned along the way. This podcast is brought to you by Singular, building brilliant biotechs. Richard Weaver is a consultant to biotech companies on their drug development programs, specialising in DMPK. Before becoming a consultant, Rich was the founder of XenoGesis, a CRO he successfully sold to Sygnature Discovery in 2020. Rich talked to us about his career as a scientist and entrepreneur, his formula for building a CRO, and the advantages of organic growth. I'm delighted to be joined this week by Richard Weaver. Rich, welcome to Careers in Discovery.
Thanks very much, Tom. Delighted to be here.
Great to see you. Now, Rich, we always start by talking a little bit about what you're up to right now, and you've recently embarked on a different phase in your career. Tell us a bit about what you're doing and tell us about drug discovery solutions.
Yeah, sure, Tom. Yeah, so essentially, I'm an independent consultant at the moment, but based on the years of experience that I've had in the various companies along that journey. So, the space that I suppose is my expertise, which I've been doing for well over 20 years, is an area called DMPK or ADME. So it's drug metabolism, pharmacokinetics, but also general drug discovery advice. And then something else which is related is the investment side as well. So I'm an investor in a fund. Again, we could talk a little bit about my experience there, but I really enjoy that side as well, and seeing if a new biotech has something of value, and look at the team and look at the future, think about the exit, etc. So I'm active there as well.
Fantastic. This is perfect because you might be able to clear something up for me. I always get confused between PK and PD and which one is which.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. That's a great question. So, no, it's a great question. So the PK is all about what the body does to the drug.
Right.
Okay. The PD is all about what the drug does to the body. Okay, so one is an effect or toxic effect, and one is how your body gets rid of a compound and absorbs it, which is the PK side. Both are important, obviously.
Now we've got this recorded, I can refer back to this because anytime anyone asks me, I go, it's PKPD. One of them is this, one of them is this. I can't remember which one's.
Yeah, but they're both related to one another, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Fab. So you've decided to set up and do this for other people and work with them on, I guess, not just the scientific parts, but the business parts as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because both bits interest me. We can come on to this. If you cut me down the middle, I was a scientist for years, and then I became a businessman. But I always remained a scientist. And both bits are equally important to me. I get a buzz from both sides. Actually, there's no denying that. And luckily, I can do both.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And you, we'll talk about your career and the formative parts of it. So I'm sure we'll talk about XenoGesis and your journey with that. But you've of course been providing services to biotech companies for a number of years. Was there anything that sort of prompted, I guess, you deciding to do it on your own this time around, or do it as an independent consultant?
Yeah, I think so. Again, we could talk about the XenoGesis story, but all the way through there, I remained active in consultancy under XenoGesis. So although I was the CEO, etc., I always did consulting for the company on that journey. And obviously, I did at AstraZeneca before that as well. And that's, there's lots of bits to the job that I enjoy, but I really do enjoy that. It's essentially like being a detective. You've got tiny pieces of evidence, threads of evidence. You've got to build a coherent story and help people actually on that journey. And that's the bit that I get a real buzz from, actually, when you realize you can help somebody and help a project and help get drugs to the market. And that's what I wanted to focus on then, without the other side, if you will, of owning a company. So I've been lucky that I'm in this situation where I can just be a consultant and I can work from anywhere in the world. I just need a laptop, and away I go, which is nice.
Yes. And in case there are any potential clients listening here for you, Rich, what areas of focus and the types of companies that you're thinking about helping?
Yeah, it's biotech in general that I like helping. Often they've got a fantastic idea. They may be world experts in a particular disease area or target, but people need help with DMPK. It's a science where is so complex. There's so much to it, and it takes so much to learn, actually, not belittling anything else, of course. But it takes years and years of experience to understand what to do with the data and what the data means, and that's the bit that is kind of really enjoyable and applicable, really. At the end of the day, everybody just wants to know, can my compound be a drug?
Right.
And I can help them tell if there's a possibility, or actually they're miles away, they're miles away, and actually you need to do many more rounds of chemistry or whatever,
Yeah, makes sense, which, can save people a lot of money, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and time as well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose a lot of, you see a lot of biotech companies, of course, that maybe have a single asset or a couple of programs that they're working on. I guess, that doesn't warrant necessarily bringing in-house DMPK expertise in, but that's where people like you come in.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, we did this even at XenoGesis, when you've got experts out there, the best thing to do is just tap into them, actually, and turn the tap on when you need them and turn the tap off when you don't need them. It helps save money as well, but you're going to get experts to really help you drive forward. So,
yes.
And again, some of the smaller companies, sometimes it's only 2 or 3 men or ladies in a room. It's a fully virtual company, and they don't need the overhead of having a full-time member of DMPK staff, for example.
No, absolutely. Fab. Well, I'm really interested in diving into your journey to this point, Rich, because there's been some really interesting twists and turns that you've taken on your path, as most people have. My understanding is that you started life as a chemist.
Yeah, that's right. I did. So again, I'll go back to when I was 10 years old, to be honest. My parents bought me a chemistry set, and I loved it, absolutely loved it, and, usually, I guess this is where perhaps I realized I was an entrepreneur. I used to follow recipes that were in the book, but then more often than not, I'd make my own thing up and try and make something louder, smellier, noisier, more colored, whatever, and I just loved my chemistry set. And it was chemistry for me, to be honest, all the way. I mean, maybe I was lucky, but, right from an early age. So again, I'm of a vintage where I did O-level. So I did an O-level chemistry. It was absolutely clear I wanted to do A-level chemistry. And even through that, I wanted to do chemistry at university. And I did all those things. Mm-hmm. Went to Leicester University, and, I really enjoyed it, to be honest. I was lucky, got first class and top prizes in every year. I just loved it, and then I did a PhD in chemistry. Again, this was with the Wellcome Trust, so way back when, but it was a fantastic thing, actually. So again, I won that sort of scholarship to do that. I was sponsored. It was chemistry, but it was about cancer. So I did get involved in the biology side a little bit. Interestingly, I've never even done a biology O-level, so I had no biology training at all, but there was a biological element to it. It was about DNA cross-linking, and I really enjoyed that, actually. I then did 2 synthesis postdocs. So that was at the Welsh School of Pharmacy. Mm-hmm. Again, medicinal area. So one was AIDS, HIV at the time, which was quite obviously still quite a big thing in the sort of early 90s, mid 90s. And then one was on a tropical disease, leishmaniasis, and again, so there's always that sort of medical side that I enjoyed. I knew I wanted to go to industry. There was no question about that.
Okay.
And then a job popped up, actually, again, showing my age, at Astra in Loughborough, which happened to be not very far away from where I grew up, actually. Right. And they did something that I thought was really quite groundbreaking. Historically, DMPK science was really people with a biology background or pharmacology, to be honest. And nobody from chemistry sort of went to DMPK. But actually, DMPK is all about the structure of the molecule. Right. And once that structure is defined, that tells you exactly how the body is going to handle it, basically. Absorb it, metabolize it, get rid of it, whatever. So I went and completely changed subjects. So just, and this is an important bit of my career, really. I'd been a chemist all along, but then suddenly I was sort of parachuted into a new discipline, right, which I know nothing about, to be very clear, absolutely nothing about. And it was a steep learning curve from that sort of late 90s onwards. But there were a few of us, four chemists in there as well. And, I really enjoyed it. It was the most fantastic training ground. It became AstraZeneca. It was the Charnwood site. It was just such a brilliant site, in hindsight. We had such really strong science in all areas, actually, medicinal chemistry, in vitro and in vivo pharmacology, and DMPK. So I really enjoyed that part,
Yes.
And then what happened really, you'll know this as well, Tom, sort of what was happening in pharma started to change in that mid-2000s. So R&D costs were going spiraling out of control, but the return on investment, new drugs to the market were dropping off like a cliff.
Right.
And just simply based on financial reasons, something had to change, And actually, pharma sort of did this all together. They closed multiple sites down,
Yeah.
Before they did that, actually, they started to outsource to China and India. And I was actually tasked with the very first project that was outsourced with AstraZeneca.
Okay.
To China, actually, as it happened in the end. So that was sort of mid-2000s. So I was evaluating Chinese CROs in the mid-2000s. They were all in the infancies then, a company like Wuxi, etc. They were very, very small companies then.
Yes.
Not now, obviously. So I started to outsource to those guys, also to the UK, some CROs. And really, to be honest, it was then when I realized these guys were building capability, but they didn't really have any understanding of what to do with the data. Okay, so I guess that was the first time I thought, you know what, these guys at the time, you just paid them some money and told them to do what you wanted to do.
Yes.
But to have that creative side, they were lacking, and that's really when I sort of realized, actually, there's a gap here in the market. That sort of scientific understanding was in the more traditional pharma, etc. The doing was there. So yes, there was a way to do things cheaper in China and India. But was there a way to do it better? And I think the jury was out in my mind then. And then, fast forward a bit. So the writing one was on the wall in 2010. We're all kind of marched into a tent on site. I think it's about 1,200 of us, told that the site was closing down. Right. It's obviously quite upsetting, quite a lot of people in tears, as you might imagine. Luckily, and AstraZeneca were very good. They gave us a lot of time to think about this. So we had a good year until the site closed, which was great. And they were very supportive, to be honest. And there were options to stay with AstraZeneca at a different site as well, which I had as a backup plan, if you will. But I started to think, even if I go to another site, there's a risk that it's going to close down. Pharma is never going to be the same again, and it's clearly reducing size. And at the time, I got quite a young family. We'd just taken on a bigger mortgage, and it may sound a bit corny, but I thought, I want my own destiny in my own hands. Actually, yes. I thought there was a big risk that if I moved to a different AstraZeneca site or a different other pharma site, a year later or something like that, that site might have closed as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
So that was really the spark, really, and I started to investigate. Then, well, what does it mean to set up a CRO? Because I knew there was a gap in the market. You see, I knew there was a changing of the guard. That actually the new drugs were coming from biotechs now, not pharma.
Right.
And the pharma guys, might slate me for that, but innovation isn't happening there. In my opinion, it dropped off. It was happening there, and when they did everything in house. But truthfully, the innovation is not there, and it is in the biotechs, which are lean and mean. 70, 80% of all drugs in development and clinical development now originate from biotech in the world.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that high.
So it's very high, and yet the biotechs are the companies that are smaller, they're lean and mean, they don't have these DMPK experts. So I thought there's a gap here.
Yes.
And I guess that was the spark and the inspiration to start my own CRO, really.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I suppose it's a really interesting place to start from, in that because I think when you go on business courses and when you learn about business, you're always taught to sort of think like a customer, right? And put yourself in the customer's shoes and try and I was on one recently where they were really pushing the phrase, fall in love with your customers, not your product. But you started essentially in that role as a customer, going and looking for a solution. So that's quite a useful place to start from, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was. I mean, all through my career, I'm chatting a lot today. I do talk. I'm happy to chat. But people may not realize I listen intently,
Right.
and the first important thing is to listen to your customers or potential customers. I mean, really listen, let them talk and let them tell you what they think they need.
Yes.
Now, most of the time that is what they need. But there are other times when I listen and I think, actually, guys, you don't need this at all. You need this. And actually, you might be barking up the wrong tree here. So you've got to subtly help them and guide them and help them realize that actually they don't need this. They need something else.
Yes.
But that's the important bit to me, is really listen to what your customers need. And sit there and listen all about, and it's all about the science, just to be very clear. I mean, I can come on to this later, but it all starts with the science. And that was the point for me for XenoGesis. It was about the best quality science. If you do that right, you've got the right people, everything else just follows, to be honest.
Yes.
And that's what happened with us,
No, of course. It's that sort of now famous quote about customers, isn't it? That if Henry Ford had asked his customers what they wanted, they would have told him faster horses.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So sometimes there's that bit of insight below the listening. So, but I suppose there's a difference between spotting a gap and starting a business. And you said that you went and looked into what starting a business actually entailed and what that would look like. Was there a point at which you decided, yes, I'm going to do this? What was the watershed moment for you, do you think?
To be honest, the day after it was announced that the site was going to be closed in 2010 at AstraZeneca, I decided. And I even went around the lab the next day because I thought, well, what are they going to do with all this kit? They're not going to keep it all. And I thought, well, what would I like in the new company? So very quickly, actually. And I was determined to make it a success, so this is from day one. Now, what I want to say, and again, hopefully this will come out later on, it's unbelievably daunting to think about starting a company, unbelievably. And if you think about it as a whole, you probably wouldn't start. You've got to raise some funds. Who do you talk to? Where do you raise those funds from? You've got to get some staff. You've got to get some labs. You've got to get equipment. There's all the legal side. There's all the accountancy, the P&L, the balance sheet, everything, I say the legals to underpin everything. I didn't know any of that when I started. But again, if you take things piecemeal and understand what you need, there is a ton of free advice in the UK, I've got to say, and it's just fantastic if you know where to look and ask questions and knock on doors, and that's kind of what I did really to start. The first thing is, of course, you've got to write a business plan, and that's really important, and I did that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So there was a clear kind of event that made you decide, okay, let's go and do this, which is good that you had that idea there already. I suppose it made that an easy transition, or an easier transition for you. But as you've touched on, there's a lot to think about. So going back to, I guess, day one, I appreciate day one never is day one, right? It's always, there's always day minus 200 that you actually started doing.
That's right. Day one was the 1st of November 2011 in the lab. That was the first official day. But you're absolutely right. The day one was a year ago in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about those early memories, though, and I guess what you remember about those early days, and maybe the things that surprised you, or the things that kind of stick in your mind about those origins of the company.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, just happy memories, actually. I mean, it's perhaps easy to say that because it was successful, but very happy memories. I mean, when you're in a big pharma organization, or any big organization, to be fair, it's great. It's comfortable. You get paid well. Pension, and at the time we had a final salary scheme, etc., etc. Yeah. But you are in an artificial bubble, actually, and you don't realize it at the time. To be honest, it's all cushy and nice, but it's not the real world, And when you pop that balloon and you actually get out there, that's when you realize it's the real world. There's so many good memories. I mean, I think one of them, actually, we started the lab in the 1st of November. We'd actually bought some secondhand lab equipment. So there's a company called DoveBid, which is a sort of industry eBay type thing. And obviously with the pharma sites closing, I thought, right, there's some great opportunity to buy some kit. So we bought a load of kit. Again, the guy who started with me, Manfred, who's the CSO, he actually drove down to Pfizer with a mate in a van and bought some freezers and centrifuges and all sorts, that I'd paid for. and it sat in my garage for, 3 or 4 months before we had the lab. We bought pipettes from eBay and, all that good stuff. While I was still at AstraZeneca, I was in the conference circle, and I made it clear that what I was doing. So again, trying to drum up customers, in those early days. The thing I think I'm really proud of, we started in the lab in November, and we actually had our first piece of work in November, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wet work in the lab, and we never had a month where we didn't have work, actually, from day one. So that was good. The other thing we did, which stands out for me, the staff was so important. I was lucky, again, handpicked two people to start with me. A lady called Dawn, who was the first paid employee, and she was just wonderful, and Manfred. So it was just the three of us for a start. But the big expense, as anybody would know in DMPK, are things called mass spectrometers, and they're $250,000 a pop, plus actually, and they even were then. Clearly, I couldn't afford to buy one of those. But what I did do, we were really lucky that, again, I just got to know a lot of people. In the pharmacy department, there was a guy there, he's retired now, Dave Barrett, and he actually had a suite of mass spectrometers that he rented time on, actually. Okay. You could just come along and borrow some time. So Manfred and myself, or Manfred would do the experiments in the lab. We'd drive to the university with the samples, we'd prep the samples, and I'd actually run the mass spectrometer because I could do that. Get the data off there, pay-as-you-go service. We'd put the data on a memory stick and come back and process the data and get the data back to clients. So things like that were just great. I just loved it. And that very first, I said I didn't get paid for quite a while, and nor did Manfred. But when I could pay that first member of staff, Dawn, in the very first month, I knew where every penny had come from.
Yeah, of course.
You can't hide when there's one person, 3 people, whatever. And I never wanted to anyway, but everybody did so much. We did everything ourselves. So it was the most rewarding paycheck. And when I got for my first paycheck, 9 months, 10 months down the line, that was the most rewarding paycheck I ever had. And got such a buzz from that because we knew we earned every penny of that. Yeah. And you didn't get that in pharma. No. To be honest, if you think about what you achieved at pharma, what did you do? What did you do? Ask anybody, what did you do of value to AstraZeneca in that day at work? Real value. Challenge yourself. What did you do that day? Yeah. Some days you'll do something of value, but of course, most of the time you won't, in all honesty.
It's a different feeling, isn't it? That you've generated that from nothing.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's not that someone has paid you for it because you're an employee, as you say. It's that you've created something that's valuable to someone, valuable enough that they've paid you money for it. Yeah. You can not only run the company, but you can start paying you. So that is a different perspective on earning that money, as you say.
It is, and everybody's different. It wouldn't suit everybody, but it was just so rewarding for me. Because we knew we put the effort in, and I say every penny of that we knew we deserved.
Absolutely. So just give us briefly then the narrative of XenoGesis and the sort of path that you went on, and then I'd like to dive into some of it in a bit more detail.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the name, by the way, I'll just start with the name, shall I? So, because that really gives you an idea about the company. So I came up with that. So the Xeno bit is in a xenobiotic, a foreign body, a drug, basically. So that's the Xeno bit. And the Gesis, there's a word called exegesis, and it means critical interpretation of a text, actually. I think it's actually a biblical term, but that's by the by. Obviously, I wanted to come up with something that was new. So actually, the name does mean something. Again, you wouldn't know this unless you were me necessarily. But so it means a critical interpretation of a xenobiotic. That's what the name means, actually. And that's what it was all about. So we're a lab-based business. We were offering multiple DMPK assays that people would run. There's lots of them. We started somewhere, and including phys-chem properties as well. Phys-chem assays, log-D, solubility, and protein binding, and things like that. And that's what the ethos of the company was built on. We'll generate data for you, but we'll help you decide what data you need, actually. So we're not going to just suggest you screen loads of compounds in loads of assays and waste loads of money. Yes. We'll help you decide which assays you need to run for your project. And it absolutely starts with the chemistry. It starts with the chemical starting point, the physical chemical properties and structure of that molecule that defines the screening strategy for any DMPK project. So it was always about that. It was always that sort of consultative approach. Mm-hmm. And also optimizing our assays as well. So I'm really proud of that we optimized quite a few of our assays. Something as simple as an hepatocyte intrinsic clearance assay. We optimized that and did a better job than most of our competitors in that assay. And making sure the assay was robust in the first place was a big part of that.
Mm. No, I can see that. And then so you started with the three of you from early on, and got some work very quickly, which is always good. I think particularly in the CRO, right? The more uptime you have, the better. Tell us a bit about, and I appreciate I'm asking you to condense several years of work at this point. Tell us a bit about where it went from there and the sort of eventual success that you had with it.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I was doing the BD as well, just to pull upon that. So I did, I was MD for a start, called it the CEO eventually, but I did the business development actually for many years. I mean, we all did in a way, but I kind of looked after that side. And I enjoyed that as well. And then obviously did the science as well. So I kind of pulled the work in, if you will. It was international work. I was really proud. We got business from everywhere actually, so UK, Europe, Israel, Australia, the US, Bulgaria even, it was great. And obviously the Scandics as well. So I really enjoyed that side. And just to say, we got some initial investment, which wasn't much money. It was, again, it was less than £100,000, mm-hmm. significantly less than £100,000 in hard cash, but we never went out and raised more money.
Right.
So we had BioCity, I haven't mentioned those. So they invested themselves. They were on the board. They were the first investors in, and absolutely delighted they were on board. A guy called Glenn Crocker, who was the CEO of BioCity at the time, and he was on my board. Absolutely fantastic man. Still involved with him these days. So those guys came in, but it was pure organic investment.
Right. Yeah.
So, we were profitable every year, and we just reinvested those profits again in more staff, more equipment. We moved labs, we had a big investment and more than doubled our lab space in the new Discovery building in BioCity. So that was the journey, and that was the choice I chose, rather than just to raise more and more cash and maybe grow it quicker, but then lose control, dilute significantly, have different people on board. This was the path I chose. I ended up being, staying the dominant shareholder all the way through. And that was good. That was good. And, we built it to sort of 36 people in the end, nearly 4 million turnover. And we had a successful sale to Sygnature Discovery in September 2020. We knew the Sygnature guys really well, actually. Many of their staff, again, they were opportunistic and took a whole load of AstraZeneca staff. They built a pharmacology department out of that, mm-hmm. took a load of chemists. So we knew them, we shared clients, it was a very natural fit for us. And we shared multiple clients along the years as well. Often we do the DMPK and clients would, look to do the chemistry and the pharmacology at Sygnature, for example.
Yeah, I see. And so there's a few things I want to dive into about that. So the point around organic growth. Now, I think some of the people listening to this, obviously, if you're developing a therapeutic, it's very hard to grow organically, right? And
that's a money burn model. We were a money create model, yeah.
And so there are situations where doing that isn't possible. But
absolutely,
I think, and I know we talked about this briefly last time we spoke, Richard. I do think that people overlook that as an option. And there's this sort of trend, and not just in biotech, this is in general, even in consumer products and all sorts of things, right? There's this trend to get an investment, grow very quickly, not necessarily worry about profit and things like that, but just grow the business. And I think, it almost makes, and I don't mean this as a criticism at all, this because I agree with you. I think people almost think of the sort of organic profit-driven model as a little bit old-fashioned, but actually there's so much power in it and there's so much value in it, and you can retain control, and you can do something that aligns with what you originally started the business for and the values you created. And I just was interested to sort of talk to you about why you made that decision to do it that way, and what you think the benefits are.
Yeah, 100% those things, Tom. And again, I'm a businessman as well. And, I already knew about the CRO market way back in 2008 and knew what those forecasts were, the CAGRs, still the same, as I say to anybody, somebody tell me of a CRO that's gone bust, in general, it's very, very low. All they do is grow, increase profits, and sell, and really good returns, really good multiples that have just increased over the years. So it's a no-brainer, actually. The biotechs are actually high risk, of course, very high risk, but potentially extremely high reward. I chose the lower risk but guaranteed reward route, and there's something nice about building, I say your own money. I mean, the company here, just to be very clear, the company's own money. Rather than taking somebody else's cash and not being successful and just burn it and maybe wasteful. Yeah. That didn't appeal to me. I wanted to create our own value and also share it amongst the employees. I had an enterprise management incentive scheme back in 2015, and the staff that were there then all benefited from that, from sale, and that was really important to me personally. So there's, that appealed to me. I mean, obviously everybody's different, but I much preferred that route, and it was a no-brainer from a risk perspective to me as well. It was low risk but guaranteed reward.
Yeah, and were you tempted at any point to break away from that? Because I think it is it can seem a more challenging route, right, to generate your own revenue and profit and things like that, especially in the face of there's people out there offering money to lots of companies. Yeah, I know, I get letters through the post all the time going, such and such is looking to loan money to businesses. And
exactly.
You get approached about all this stuff all the time, right? Was there ever a point when you were tempted to change your mind on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I still do now, I mean, if I did something else, I'd create a biotech, I think, with somebody, because to be honest, I think I could do a pretty good job. I know what to do. I know not what to do. And I know how much you can do with so little money. I know what the killer experiments are, in terms of the target validation, in terms of the PK/PD, in terms of the chemistry, in terms of the tox and the safety margin. I think I could do a pretty damn good job of that. But, I do enjoy being an independent consultant and seeing multiple projects and multiple people at the same time. So yeah, I've thought about it, and I guess I still think about it now, actually.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think in terms of the other thing I was interested in is in terms of the success of XenoGesis, and I think anyone would class a 10-year run and then a sale to a larger company as a success in entrepreneurial terms. You mentioned the science being really core and the quality of the science being really core. So I imagine this is one of the answers to this question. But what are the things that you think were crucial to making the company a success?
The thing, again, I've not talked about, but it's obvious to me, is the people.
Right.
I had the best team, the best team. That's why it was successful, to be very clear. I was very lucky that I was able to handpick, in the early days, some key staff from AstraZeneca, that I knew and had worked with for many years, so that was really important to me, and I knew who not to go for and who to go for, and I was lucky that I could attract most of the ones that I really wanted. There were some others which I couldn't afford, or at the time, or it it just circumstances didn't work for their families or whatever, and then obviously I I wanted to expand that set then. So again, we got other people along, Graham, who became my CSO, he had a very different background, and that was important. So that diversity of people, but the staff were just awesome, and such a unique team, that felt like a working team, We all help one another. Obviously, you need hierarchy in there. You need some kind of, structure. But I ran it as non-hierarchical as I could, actually. Yeah. And that was really important to me. And, I'm proud that in 9 years, we only ever lost one person. And that was to do a PhD. She went off and did a PhD, which was fantastic for her, Actually, in lockdown, she couldn't go there, and she came back with us for a bit, So I'm really proud of that. That was important to me as well. Yeah. Excuse me. But yeah, the people 100% make it. You've got to have the right team. and a team that gels and that helps one another. And one of the members of staff, Jim, he once said, "Do you know what, Rich?" He said, "There's nothing we can't do," And I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right there, mate. And that's a real nice feeling, that as a team, we just got so much experience collectively, and we're training youngsters as well. And that was a big thing I was very proud of as well, and bring those guys on board,
No, absolutely. And thinking about your sort of development as a leader and as a managing director, CEO, someone, because you came into that role really as a scientist, right? I know you'd had some management experience and you'd probably seen some of the business stuff at AstraZeneca because it's such a big company, right? But I always think there's no sort of set training program to be a CEO or to lead a company. You kind of have to feel your way with it, and everyone has a slightly different approach to it. But in terms of your skill set, your capability, your learning and development, what do you think were the key things that you had to work on and develop to be successful in that role?
Obviously, I did have management responsibility at AstraZeneca for 14 years. Group leader, team leader there. So obviously I did have that experience, went on that training there as well. But, it's different being a CEO of a company. So I guess just learned on the job. The main important thing, again, is to listen.
Yeah.
And again, the thing I work with is, I'm generally a friendly person, as anybody would say who knows me. And that's my approach. I've obviously had multiple bosses over the years, and there's people that like you to know that, they're your boss, right? And then, that's not my style of working. We're in this together, actually. So mine is a very open, very listening, very transparent, very trusting, actually. That's a big thing that I found over the years. My instant response with people, whether they're customers or staff, is to give trust.
Right. And
when you give trust, you get trust back, So I'm not deliberately doing that. That's just what I do. Obviously, there's a few encounters on the way where you might find that they're not so trustworthy, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
So that sort of open listening, we're in this together. I'm not always right, that worked for me. And I enjoyed that. But obviously, there's times when you need to be the boss and you need to make decisions and you need to make tough decisions and uncomfortable decisions as well. Yeah. So you're not going to be afraid of doing that. You're not going to be afraid of tackling awkward situations or awkward conversations, and that can be with customers as well, actually. So I guess learning on the job is just experience, and I've interacted with a lot of people in the past, and I look at their traits, and if there's things I appreciate in their personality, then you can always learn. Again, Jim, one of the great characters at XenoGesis, he always said, "Every day's a school day," and I always still now, go with that. I try and learn something new every day, and to try and, better oneself, I guess.
Yeah. And it sounds like though it was the people interactions, the people skills, whether that was the business development side of it or leading the team or what have you, that was really the sort of critical part of your role as you saw it, and being able to make that effective.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, again, people ask, I think of all the characteristics that I have, I think being able to talk with anybody, is easy for me. So, if I'm down the pub speaking with a load of mates, that's just as easy to me as it is to speak with a CEO or a CSO or whoever, actually.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable in all those different environments because I am all those people, if that makes sense. I don't have to pretend, I suppose. I find that, and again, I think that's lucky. That's lucky. That's a trait that I have. Whereas, some people are just sometimes, in this space, they can be real big time nerdy scientists,
Yeah,
you know what? I can be a nerdy scientist as well, because actually I am. There's a part of me that is, but there's a big part of me that's not that as well, So, so I guess that's one trait and one skill that I've realized over the years that I just naturally have, and I find it comfortable speaking to everybody in all walks of life, actually, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it very much.
Absolutely. I think as soon as you get into any sort of business role, right, it's about interaction with people, and that is whether that's the people you work with or external people. That's what's going to make it successful or not. And
yeah, definitely.
I remember reading this book. I forget who it was by. I forget the guy's name, but he started a sports agency years and years ago before there were really sports agencies. So he had, I think his first client was Gary Player.
Oh, right.
It so happened that Gary Player was like a friend of his friends.
Yeah.
And he was up and coming at the time, and that's why he managed to sign him up. But he wrote a book called What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School. And it was all about all of this. It was all about the fact that business is really just a series of interactions between people, and you have to get really good at those interactions.
Definitely.
But, you know, the Harvard Business School stuff is really useful, and the theory is really helpful, and the models are helpful. But without the personal interaction, nothing happened.
100%.
It was all about that.
And again, I made a point, every day I would speak with all members of staff if I could, every single day, and it might be just small chat. It might be about the work, it might be about something else, but it's really important, to have those, just to have those genuine interactions. I mean, again, we were, deadly serious about the business. It was successful, but again, anybody that knows me, I like to have a laugh, and and every day has to be fun. It has to be fun at work. I made sure it was for me, and hopefully for the others as well.
No, that's important. So if there was someone, Richard, I guess there's a couple of aspects that I ask this question from, but if there was someone either who was on the brink of starting a company or maybe has just started one, or someone getting into their scientific career at the beginning, maybe they've just finished their PhD, they're stepping into industry. What are the sort of one or two pieces of advice that you would share? And it might be stuff you've already talked about, but what are the one or two things that maybe you wish someone had told you back then, or you wish that you knew when you were starting?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Tom, first of all. So yeah, that is a great question. So I think, I do lecture. I've done quite a lot of lectures obviously for free for various students at different stages of their courses, MBAs or MSCs or whatever. So I've been to multiple universities doing this. And the one piece of advice I give is, don't think just because you're doing a biology degree or a chemistry degree or whatever, this is your path forever. Those skills are transferable. So that's the most important thing, I would say. I wasn't an entrepreneur until I was 42. If somebody had told me that when I was 30, I'd have probably just laughed. But actually, in hindsight, I realised I was always an entrepreneur. But so I think that's the first thing, and also not to be afraid and let confidence build. I might sound confident today, but I wasn't when I was 20 years old or 25 even. I remember giving my first talk when I was doing my PhD in the US. And I remember putting the microphone on my shirt and thinking, crikey, people will be able to hear my heart beating here. I was so nervous. But that confidence comes with time and with age as well. So that's the other thing, without trying to sound condescending. But, don't think you're on a fixed journey path. Crikey, I wasn't. But the skills you learn, again, I use chemistry every single day still now, but I'm not an active chemist, but I use chemistry every day.
Yeah.
So, those skills are transferable, and you can change direction, no question at all. And actually, I've completely changed direction. I've never done an MBA, I've never even watched The Apprentice, or Dragon's Den. I've never even watched them, So, you don't need to have an MBA to be an entrepreneur,
No, absolutely.
So that's the advice I give.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful. And I think that's right. I think it's, like you say, that sometimes stops people, I think. they think, I'll do this business once I've done this course or once I've got this education or whatever. And it just, like I say, it can be useful, but it's, as you say, it's not a requirement.
Yeah. It's kind of either in you or it's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'd have done an MBA at some point in my career, I'm sure that would have helped me. I'm sure it would actually. Whereas I was learning on the fly. But yeah, it's not essential.
No, and I guess when you learn through the job, and I'm sure you also spent time reading stuff and talking to people and all that kind of thing, and you do that too, right? But it gives you an opportunity to pick the things that are most relevant and apply them straight away, right? So you can try stuff out and you can...
Yeah, exactly that,
Yeah. Fabulous. Well, Rich, great to talk to you about this. Thank you so much for sharing a bit about your journey and your career so far. And good luck in this next phase and with what's to come.
Thanks very much. Thanks for being a great interview. I've really enjoyed it, and it's you don't often sit back and reminisce and think about the successes. I tend to look forward, so it's nice to have an opportunity to be able to do that. So thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks very much for listening. Careers in Discovery is sponsored by Singular, helping you to build a brilliant biotech company. Biotech leaders spend far too much time, money, and energy on hiring and people issues. Head to www.singular-biotech.com to learn how you can recruit and engage your team more effectively so you can focus on developing medicines, treating patients, and saving lives.